Hey everybody, I'm out here walking outside today, breathing in the clean air. Unfortunately, the sun isn't out. I would have worked on my tan, but it is what it is. So anyway, what I'm going to talk about today is what is the purpose for men in the modern day? What is being a man about in the modern day? What is modern masculinity? I've thought about this a lot. Me getting older, I'm 25 now. I guess I'm still young, but I've thought about this. This has probably been the prevailing question in my mind for the past couple years. But that's a good thing, because that has helped me really grow as a person and change the trajectory that I was on to a much better trajectory. And I have a lot more respect for myself now. And even though things get difficult, I guess manage the difficulty a lot better than I used to, because I have a purpose and I have a clear idea on what my life is supposed to look like. And as long as I am doing what I feel that I have to do and what I'm supposed to do, then that protects me from any kind of, threat or inconvenience or stumbling block that comes in my way. So I want to start out with kind of a quote from one of our great American heroes, George Patton, on what manhood is. All men are afraid in battle. The coward is the one who lets his fear overcome his sense of duty. Duty is the essence of manhood. Another great American general of high character, General Robert E. Lee, also said that duty was the sublimest word in the English language. So what's the definition of duty? I Googled what duty means, and I got it written down right here. Duty is a moral or legal obligation or a responsibility. So, what are men supposed to do? Well, you're supposed to have duty. You're supposed to live your life with an attitude of duty, or whatever. There might not be a great war going on right now where you're at. Here in America, we haven't had really a war like we used to have on the scales of like World War II, or the Civil War in quite some time, and that's a good thing. But one of the bad things is now, people don't have a great cause, especially men. Men really need that. We don't have a great cause, to throw ourselves behind. If you were a young man around the time of, let's say, World War II, it was very clear what your purpose was. It was very clear. You had to serve your country and go fight the enemy at the peril of your life. There were actually boys back then, who could not enlist for whatever reason. Maybe it was a medical reason, and they committed suicide. And that's because they felt like they were unable to live their purpose. And so then life became meaningless in their eyes, and they opted out, unfortunately. So what does it look like for men in the modern day? In this world where there is no great war going on, and there's nothing obvious. It's not so obvious anymore. You don't even have to protect yourself or your loved ones. Law and order is there for that. So we have basically what is as close to utopia as that's ever existed. So what do you do? Well, it's, you know, you got to find duty in other ways. I think duty is an attitude, really, and purpose is an attitude that you live your life with. You know, it's not a specific action. I think it's an attitude that you live your life with. It's like Aristotle said, you know, excellence is not an act, but a habit. We are what we repeatedly do. So, like Jordan Peterson says, you know, work on things that are obviously wrong around you. You know, things are obviously around you about yourself that are under your control that you can make better, make it better. You know, that might mean cleaning your room. That might mean cleaning your car. If you're overweight or you're not happy with your body, whatever, which you're probably not, you know, because every guy wants to be big and muscular. Every guy. But not many of them are. It's because they don't want to do the work. So, you know, maybe start devoting a couple hours a week to the gym, you know. And you might have to start small and then work your way up, and that's okay too. Because early on, you don't have enough discipline to go to the gym rigorously. So you might have to start out just doing 10 push-ups in the morning, 3 days a week or something. And then work your way up to getting an actual membership and doing more rigorous exercises. But anyway, so it's the obvious things that you can do that are laid out right in front of you. And I don't know if any of you have ever watched Hamza on YouTube. I'm a huge fan of Hamza. He said that purpose is like an onion. You know, you have the outside layers, and then you worry about those, you peel those layers back, and then you get to the inside. That's the big stuff. So what you can do now is fix little things, you know, start living your life with a sense of duty to yourself, first and foremost. You know, fix the things that are wrong with you, you know. Make, you know, stop doing things that you feel are wrong. And, you know, people have various opinions on what is right and what is wrong. But just for now, you know, think about what do you think's wrong. You know, maybe you vape, or maybe you smoke or something, or smoke too much weed or drink too much, whatever. And maybe you feel like that's wrong. Maybe you are ashamed of that. Well, maybe you should stop that and make an effort to stop that. Whatever the case may be. Like I used to chew tobacco, I did for years, or dip snuff rather, whatever you want to call it, from the ages of 14 to 24. And then I quit. And it took me a while, but I wasn't proud of it. You know, I knew deep down that it wasn't a good thing to do. So I decided I was going to stop it. And I did. It took a while. And it does take a while. You're not going to just get over it immediately. But if you consistently, you know, exercise your willpower and go longer and longer without it. Okay, I didn't dip snuff in a day. You know, I'll have a dip of snuff tomorrow. Or, you know, then you go, well, I'll, you know, wait a couple weeks and then have one. And then eventually, you know, you just stop it altogether. So maybe that's what you got to do. So you can fix things that are obviously wrong with you. Do that first. And then think about some things in life you want. You know, you probably want some money. You know, you probably want a girlfriend or wife or whatever. So then you need to start working towards achieving those things. So you live your life with a sense of purpose and a sense of duty, you know. And the antithesis of that, the opposite of that, is hedonism, you know, doing instant gratification activities. You know, like drinking, smoking pot, video games, watching TV, sports, you know, scrolling on your phone too much, you know, that sort of thing. That is the opposite of that. And I think that's what you default to when you don't have a purpose in front of you. And, you know, you got to get away from that stuff. You got to get away from that stuff because that will keep you from having a purpose. You'll get into that rut and then you'll go for years and years, and then time goes by and you look back and it's like, oh, I've got nothing to show for it. I'm still stuck in the same job, you know, that I don't like, with the same people and the same habits and the same me that is, you know, suboptimal. But I'll close this video with another quote. I'm trying to remember who said it. But anyway, what it is I think it was Seneca that said it. How long are you going to wait until you demand the best for yourself? Think about that. Y'all have a good one.